Welcome to all of you who've come here today for this editors roundtable. I can be heard, no? I'm audible. Okay, so I'll just start by introducing the panelists today. Uh, on my left and alphabetically first is Antara Lahiri, who first studied in XIC and then FTII. She graduated in film editing and started out by assisting in films like Gajni and Road movie, and then went on to do various things. She worked briefly in for some television series, which is where we met professionally many years ago. And then, of course, down the road, her most recent and significant works were Shakuntala Devi, Ye Ballet, Shamaji Ki Beti, Mast Mein Rehne Ka, and also Amazon Prime mini series and four more shots, please. Unpaused, Modern Love. The list is long, and so I'll just keep it brief. She's got awards. She's got nominated for a Bard of Blood, Delhi Crime, season two, yeah, yeah, and various other awards and nominations. Then next, Atanu Mukherjee, again alphabetically from SRFTI, who was selected as an Indian director editor at Berlinale Talents, was a jury member at Cinema City International, nominated for Filmfare Awards for Afwa, and he has a large list of credits as well. Feature length script for a film called Rook, and his more recent works are Serious Men, Monica, Oh My Darling, Bheed, Monsoon Shootout, and various others. Next is Jabin Merchant, also graduating from FTI. Jabin Merchant has done a wide range of work from documentaries, fiction, non-fiction, small films, big films, very big films, Academy Award nominated films. So the list is huge. Lapata Ladies, Vigato, NH10, Manorama 6 Feet Under, Anarkali of Ara, Tribanga. It's long. I think we'll finish 45 minutes just reading out the name of the films she's worked on. And more recently, four more shots, please, also. Manas Mittal, SRFTI as well. He's also done multiple feature film length films. He was a fellow at the Asian Film Academy and the Busan International Film Festival. And he's worked with people, with big filmmakers like Q, Dibakar Banerjee, Shonali Bose, Abhishek Chaubey, etc. He is currently working on a series by Imtiaz for Window Seat and for, I think, Applause, maybe, not Applause, okay, Netflix, yeah, okay. And he's known for work like Death in the Gunj, The Sky is Pink, Brahman Naman, May I, Kala, etc. So we have a good house, two from FTI, two from SRFTI. I'll start. These are editors, so they know how to be brief. So I'm going to ask them a couple of questions, and they'll be answering each question is about 2 to 2.5 minutes. And after that, we can have questions from the audience. So the first thing I would like to know from all of you, in whichever order we have, I think we start with Jabin, you. In about 15, 20 plus years of the editing that you've done, what are the changes that you've seen, and what is significant change that you see now uh, versus when you probably began, or maybe a decade or so ago? A change that is great or a change that is terrible, or both? Okay, so if I had to point to just one big change, what would that be?
Just one. Oh my God. When I was there was a time when I thought I'd start writing a blog and I'd call it "Try Not to Crib," but then I thought I will lose all my work and all my friends if I express my sharp opinions repeatedly. So yeah, I have a lot of things that I feel, oh, why is this like this? But of course, changes. I don't need to list the obvious ones. The way technology has just completely, evolved beyond all recognition. That one of our favorite quotes from Arthur C. Clarke, where he says, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And nowadays, you really feel like, that the stuff that we are dealing with, a generation before me, even, we don't have to go way into the past, people would just be like, what? Is this possible? Is this sci-fi? It's the world has really evolved. And it's been great to be part of that evolution, I'd say. Uh, the one change, if you ask me, Neil, the one thing to point to is that, see, our tools have evolved. And I really love the fact that, you're thinking, your brain works in a different way because you have different tools in your hands. There are certain things we just could not do earlier, so nobody even thought of them. I mean, it was outside the realm of possibility. But now when I'm sitting at an editing system or, with able to do certain effects and try certain things, cut in certain ways, put one frame of something here and one flash of something there. This is something that people couldn't even imagine doing. So it's, my brain works in a different way, and I just love that. Uh, and it opens up possibilities in a very, very wonderful way. On the other hand, the flip side of it is that uh, I see that you actually stop using the main tool that you have sometimes, which is your brain at the end of the day, right? So it's like karke dekhte hai. You'll just do it and then undo it, and do it and then undo it and do something else. But I mean, I actually still find that it is the fastest and best way is to not do it, to think about what you want to do. This is what I was trained to do. And I really appreciate that, to just think about it, decide exactly what works, see it in your mind first, and then do it. And, 90% of the time, that's the best way, right? So this thing that sometimes is just so easy that we stop thinking. This really gets to me, I'd say.
I think definitely what Jabeen said, I completely resonate with that. For me, another thing I feel now it's a boon and a bane is the democratization of the filmmaking process, where everyone is or can be a director, everyone is or can be an editor, and so on and so forth. And there are obvious advantages and disadvantages. In fact, on the way here, I was talking to my team, and we were saying, how very easily nowadays people say, I am also an editor. But I think what comes with actually professionally editing or professionally directing is a certain sense of accountability towards the budget, towards that's being put into your team, the workflow, the meeting certain deadlines, meeting schedules. That balancing act between being an editor and managing these schedules and budgets and being accountable to someone, I think that shift is something we are yet to absorb. So when we are saying that I am also an editor, it's great that you are able to have access to the tools, but I think to further, one has to build that sense of accountability if one is to actually be seen as a professional editor. So I think that gap is kind of very pronounced right now. So I mean, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed over the years, and the way we started. Obviously, I'm not that old where I started from editing physical celluloid, but yeah, we had this training of cutting the celluloid, and then in the film school we got to know the importance of one single frame. So we would, if accidentally you lose a frame and you just want to just reattach, you understand the value of it, and if you just lose it in between, then everything is gone. So obviously from there, when we come to the digital era where everything is so feasible, everything is so much in your hand. So I mean, it becomes, it gives you a lot of freedom to try out a lot of things. And it's definitely a great change in terms of, your creative mind to flow, the juice to flow. But now adding to Jabeen and Antara, I mean, what I feel that the core thing about filmmaking or adding your creation into the storytelling is basically the focus, the kind of motive that you want to have from the beginning, right? From the screenplay to the final execution on the screen. So I mean, each and every tool will definitely give you the freedom to try out a lot of things, but obviously to know what you want, and that is very important. And it has a very positive side, and at the same time it sort of has the ability to confuse you also at the same time. So I remember one learning that I had in my institute days. Like I was doing an exercise, and I was about to show it to my professor, and I was doing two options of that, and my professor told me, no, you have to just decide which one you want to show me. And that is I mean, like, that is the most important learning I had. Like, even though I have a lot of options to do, a lot of timelines, a lot of permutation combination I can do, but that one option that I'll have to decide. Yeah.
Manas, I'm going to add to this that I think a lot of our directors didn't get that memo.
Am I audible? Much as in life, आपको लगता है आपका thought original है, but आपके senior already बोल देते हैं ये बातें. So Antara stole my answer. I was going to talk about democratization. First of all, very honored to be on this panel. So many seniors. I feel very privileged to sit here amongst them. I mean, I will try my best not to crib because I think every editor loves to do that. But change, I feel that much as because of democratization and how accessible filmmaking has become, and I think more power to storytellers across the globe with that, when there is this growing sense that there is a lot of noise around. So one thing that hasn't changed is mediocrity. I feel like we are as mediocre as we ever were, especially in India. We are still not being able to push the envelope in the right ways. Even in post-production, I think we still have a lot to catch up on. But the turnarounds is a common term in filmmaking these days. The turnarounds are much faster now. So people want to be able to edit at the speed of thought. Almost, they want to, before they've even shot it, they know how it will be cut. And when it actually comes to the cutting table with the editor, and hopefully a responsible editor, it feels like you're not in a bullet train, you're in a slow local. Because the moment it comes in front of you, दूध का दूध पानी का पानी. तो like आपने सोचा बहुत तेज था, पर आपने insufficient सोचा था, तो अभी आप इसको डील करो इसके साथ. So very जितना जल्दी सोचते हैं उतना जल्दी फिगर आउट हो जाता है कि इट्स नॉट वर्किंग आउट. So luckily for editors, their role has become even more important today, I think, because they weed out all the noise, and I'm really happy about that editors are in their own quiet spaces. It's not popular to be crediting an editor in public domain, but in their quiet spaces, editors are really respected for what they contribute to their stories. And I think yes, as technicians, people just continue to be responsible and keep trying to push the boundaries within whatever their parameters they are served with.
Thanks for all those insights. So just to summarize what we've learned here so far, that like Jabin emphasized the importance of thinking and not just the system. So thinking is as important as the system itself. Antara spoke about, if you want to say I am also an editor, you better earn it. Okay, and Atanu spoke about the importance of being decisive, and I think one of the reasons why editing today takes even longer than it took back in the film days, when it was harder to edit because there was a physicality about it. Today we're just pushing buttons, but we take even longer than that because of the lack of being decisive. And that really leads into what Manas is also kind of saying, that it all seems pretty easy and straightforward when it is being shot. When it comes to the edit is when you discover that there are some important holes in the storytelling process, which now the editor has to become the dentist and fill. Okay, however painful it is. So moving on to a different question. It's on editing systems. Now, some of you have started out working prior to computers for editing, and some of you have come into editing when computers were already there for editing. So, in the last about I think decade or so, a lot of changes have happened, and we've all moved platforms. So, I think all of you have used all the systems that there are. I think all of you have sufficient experience, having worked with Avid Media Composer, Premiere Pro, before that Final Cut Pro, even maybe Final Cut Pro 10, Resolve, EDS, lots of other platform, Vegas. I don't know if you all have used any of those. So. Some of them would be your go-to system, the system that you really love, the system that's your companion. That's the system you wake up to and whose face you see every morning, kind of thing. No, I think it's too romantic, I think. Uh, what is it that you miss in an editing system that you're currently working on? And what is it that you love, or what you hate, or all of the above? So we could start with Atanu, because I think he claims to be the youngest.
So, I mean, obviously, we tried out a lot of platforms and softwares and all. All the softwares, they have their like pros and cons, and we sort of travel through them, and like right from starting from Avid, then working on FCP7, a little bit on Resolve, and then Adobe. So, I mean, right now, currently, I'm working on Adobe primarily, and I mean, the thing is, it has opened a lot of scope in front of us in terms of trying out the tools, how things are so much accessible. It's very easy to handle the footage these days, especially with the new updates with the softwares and all. And now you can carry it in your laptop, you can take it anywhere, you can do your work, and that is the best part, and that is the worst part also. Like, it never sort of let you have that separation from your work, which is very much needed at some time. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, these are the few, I just want to say, like, a Premiere is something that I'm primarily working on, and definitely, if there is something new coming up with the new software, I definitely would like to try that and experiment on that. Yeah.
Hi. So, yeah, like Atanu, nowadays I work on Premiere Pro. But yeah, have started with film. The first film I worked on as an assistant editor was on 35mm. I was a custodian of a steel cupboard full of cans. That was great. So yeah, done it all. And the first system that when we started working on computers was, of course, Avid Media Composer, and that's the one I seriously worked on for years. So I would say that it's not as if I would avoid working on any system, actually. Because, of course, I mean, you can always learn, right? It's which machine, what buttons to press. Again, going back to what I keep repeating, like, until people are sick of it, is like, as long as you know what you want to do, boss, you'll find which button to press, right? So I don't think that we should really be intimidated by editing systems. So yeah, if somebody, depending on the circumstances, you can adapt to any system. They are not like that far apart from each other. So why do I prefer Adobe Premiere Pro right now? Is because, see, once I stopped working on Media Composer, which was because I used to do a lot of independent documentary work, and people used to shoot on mini DV tapes. You remember, Neil? So mini DV tapes, initially when they came out, you couldn't get the SMPTE time code. And because you couldn't get that, starting with 00, it only started with a single digit, the time code. Because of that, you couldn't capture it into Avid. So, and of course, Avid was more expensive. It was the hardware and software were bundled together. So independent filmmakers couldn't afford it. And a lot of my documentary filmmaker friends just got FCP. So I started with FCP3. And so, yeah, I mean, the way that FCP worked and the way Adobe Premiere Pro works is that it allows you to interact directly with your media files. Like, if I want to check, I can just open something in the, in the Finder. I can manipulate it there. I can import it. you kind of get used to manipulating your timeline also, the way tracks lock. That kind of thing I've gotten so used to. So when, FCP7 kind of stopped and then one had to take that decision, कि अब कहाँ जाएं, uh, I found that Premiere Pro suited me best, and it still does.
Very similar journey with, I think Adobe Premiere Pro has grown with my career also, because when I started out, we were working on Premiere 1.5. It was not even Pro back then. And I mean, of course, learning on celluloid and all of that was very fascinated, but starting career in indie films, one didn't have the resources to access Avid, and so FCP7, thank God it is gone now. One of the most useless editing softwares ever. But but and then, even back then Adobe, I think, was making bigger strides, and just like over the years I got used to working on it, because it allowed multi format, multi codec you use on the timeline. So one just kept getting used to it, and one would just pray that one day one feature film will come along and I will be allowed to edit on Adobe Premiere, because it was not considered as legit as it is today back then. But I feel like Adobe has made significant improvements in their software capacities along the years. And once a director asked me why do editors edit on Avid, and my immediate answer without thinking was because directors cannot use it. So so it's so tedious that only an editor is required to operate it, and that employment is assured. So but the discipline that celluloid editing taught me was carried over in Avid, and somehow it's so ingrained in me that I follow that discipline even on Premiere Pro today. Even if I have to, for a brief bit, I don't know why, but have to work on Resolve, then I have to, I deploy that there as well. The one thing that many years ago, I was sitting with a now very established colorist, and I was observing his baselight setup, and I was just wowed by how intuitive softwares like Baselight are. And surely, and I'm talking almost like 7 8 years ago, so I'm imagining that it has evolved even further today. So I don't think editing softwares, including Avid, have become that intuitive or that smart, understanding the needs of a film editor as beautifully as color softwares have. One function that I would really love them to have is memory. That just 2 days ago, something I was working on my timeline, my director asked me to change something. I immediately changed it, and I immediately regretted it because I changed it and I could not undo it anymore. I was like, oh shit, I forgot to copy and save it somewhere else. I was like, so I was talking to my software, I wish you could remember this for me on my behalf. but but yeah, I mean, one can keep dreaming. So yeah, softwares have really made life easy. My favorite tool is audio. I work a lot with audio, and Premiere allows that sort of fluidity to me a lot. Thanks.
So at the cost of, so I'll start with what I wish I could edit on, and at the cost of sounding terribly romantic, I'd say I miss the days we've done. Like, I've not edited professionally on a Steenbeck, but we've done all our exercises at FTII on a Steenbeck, and I do miss just the period of time that we took to kind of wind the roll, to kind of set up everything, make a cut. It gave you time to process and think. And I think it goes back to what Jabin was saying, that right now I feel like our fingers work faster than our brain. I know that happens for me. Like, I've made the cut and then I'm thinking about it. So that processing time for our own self is lost, and I feel a lot of our schedules also pick up on that, and they know that you can, people who are making schedules are not really accounting for the fact that there's a brain that's going to be making the changes. They're saying the system can work that fast, so the schedule is also really fast. If at some point we did go back to working with a brain and with thought in place, our schedules would also automatically allow us that time. So it's all kind of interlinked. So I would love at some point to go back to that sort of almost meditative rhythm of editing. In terms of software, I completely agree with Jabeen that I don't align with any software actually. At FTI, I think we were using some very old version of Avid when Neil and Jabeen came in to take our workshops, and we were first introduced, my batch was introduced to Final Cut Pro 7, I think. Not 7, it was probably an earlier version. 4.5, yeah. So Neil and Jabeen introduced me to FCP, and then I did a lot of work on FCP, and at some point, Jabeen told me, why are you still editing on FCP? And she sent me a bunch, her shortcuts very kindly. She sent me her Premiere Pro shortcuts and said, check this out. And I was still dragging my feet, and I didn't want to leave FCP. By that time, it was 7, and it was so buggy, but I loved it. Manas. And then I did Delhi Crime Season 2. Oh, then I did Bard of Blood on Avid, so I kind of picked up Avid, which I had forgotten to a great extent. So after FCP 7, I did Avid. Then we did Delhi Crime Season 2, where Manas refused to work on anything else except Premiere Pro. So I think Parikshit was also kind of okay with it. And I said, okay, well, I did my last project on Avid, but I learned Premiere. So I have Manas and Jabin actually to thank for me going back to Premiere Pro. But I think now we kind of, and my team also, are actually, 3 of them are here, and we are very open to working on whatever software. I don't think we prioritize the software. We prioritize the project that we are working on. So if it's something like, we had started Call Me Bay on Avid, and then I think 1 week in we realized, because there's so much, I do a lot of offline graphics. My team is very well versed with creating offline graphics. And we realized it's going to be very difficult to execute this in Avid. So we shifted after 1 week, I think we shifted to Premiere Pro. So we really kind of, and there's another film we did which had no graphics at all, which was Mast Mein Rehne Ka, and we took the call to work on Avid on that, so that we are kind of fluent with whatever software is around. So yeah, I think, I'll go with whatever the flow is.
This is fast becoming an Adobe promotional event.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, actually. So, like the reason for having this question actually was because a lot of time I do a lot of interfacing with editors, some of them here as well as lots of editors outside, assistant editors also, and I come across a lot of people who, I am an Avid editor, I am a primary editor. It's almost religion, It's like, but guys, you're only editing. Okay, at the end of the day, you're making a film. You're basically making a film. You're directing a film. At least you're the second time the film is being directed when it's being edited. So you're directing a film, actually. That's what an editor does. Yeah, rewriting the film. So then how does the tool matter? The film will come out the same. And I think, I'm sure all of these guys will agree here that you're exactly as good as an editor on any platform. It's the editor that matters and not the platform so much. To take one point that Manas said, I actually never thought of it like that. That Avid is used by editors to edit feature films because directors don't understand Avid. Actually, I would go a little further and say that director would not even touch an Avid because it is just too difficult. The thing with Final Cut Pro and now Premiere is that it looks too easy. So many directors would try to edit that. I've had situations where a director has taken a FCP project from me and come back completely messed up because it looks too easy, so people just jump into it, and it's very easy with Final Cut Pro and also with Premiere to completely mess a project. Okay, and then it gets worse when you start doing undos because a lot of the do's were right and it had to be undone, and out of undos happen where the good things go away. So, but I did undo, it's looking bad still. Okay, so Yeah, so editing system I don't think should become an issue, and I'm glad that you guys basically agree with that, that the editing system is never the issue. And I think a lot of young people need to get into that, that you are only an editor first. You're first an editor, and then you're an operator of Avid. If you say I'm an Avid editor, then you're basically an Avid operator who also edits, and I don't think that should be right. Editor is a storyteller first and last. The Avid and the Premiere Pro and the Resolve or whatever are only tools. Okay. So now I'm just going on to another question, which is away from machines. Is that about the concept of assistant editor and associate editor? So we have a concept, for those who don't know, we have a concept of assistant editor who comes in, who actually does the assistant level work of building the project. An assistant is a very important part of the editing process. He or she is not a subordinate. He is a equal in the sense that they build the project, and a really good assistant is extremely valuable. And a really bad assistant is a huge crippling factor. Okay. So, and then there is a associate editor who actually plays the role of a editor. An associate is not a substitute. An associate is a editor's friend, okay, who helps the editor and who is also helped by the editor. And I think a lot of associates think of themselves as substitute. When the editor's hurt, I'll be asked to field or something. You know, it's not quite like that. An associate is an editor as well. So I want to know from you, because you people curate assistants, you curate associates. What is that quality or skill that you think an editor or an assistant or associate editor has to have? And what are the things that they definitely should not have? Okay, or you can talk about both, because what has happened is in the field of feature film editing and even series editing, editing is no longer a one person operation. It is a team operation. And I don't think all of you have ever come across a project in recent times which only one person could do from start to finish. It's practically impossible unless it's a very short film or maybe an ad film, and even ad films need to have some assistance. So what is that thing that you have an assistant has to have or should never have?
Okay, I'm a terrible person to start with for this because I feel like I'm really, oh dear. No, I just feel like I'm very particular and very harsh in my choices because there is so much at stake increasingly as our workflows are evolving. The stakes are way higher, which is not to say that we are saving lives or anything. We're still just making films and shows, but the stakes are comparatively higher than ever. So one thing, and in fact, again, this is something that I discussed with my team before coming here as well, because I also want to know what their opinion is. Like what is it that makes an associate or an assistant hireable? And this is actually coming from the horse's mouth because they felt communication, for instance, is a very critical part of the job today. Because with streaming platforms in particular, you're going to get all your feedback in English, for better or for worse. You're going to get from showrunners, you're going to get all your feedback, and we get like 65 points per network cut. So to be able to decode what is being said, to be able to translate that and make the changes, to convey to, let's say, if sometimes the associate is sitting with the director, to be able to communicate with the director successfully, your communication skills have to be on point. A lot of people feel that editors, anyone can, just, I don't have to talk much. That's not true. The amount of convincing, debating, arguing you have to do at every step today is absolutely, like, you cannot kind of forego the communication part of it. And I feel discipline, because I feel we are unique. Our department is unique in the sense that outside of the shoot goes on for say 3 months or 4 months, the edit of any show or film typically nowadays takes 8 months minimum from start to finish. To wake up every single day and be committed to delivering every single day, that is a very unique kind of discipline that a person needs to have, to show up every day, show up with that almost, you can't come someday at your 10%. You have to bring 80, 90, 100% performance every single day. So it's a very specific form of discipline that at least I expect in my teams. So yeah, I would say for me, communication and discipline to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of especially how to divide the work between the assistant and associate. So, first of all, what Antara rightly said, the dedication and the sincerity, the kind of the work that we are doing, it needs a lot of communication and that clarity of what we are trying to do. First and foremost, what we are trying to do, especially when we start a project, we discuss the workflow and how the material will be coming and how everything will be sorted and everything will be divided into in the project and how the work will be divided by the assistant and then the associate and then the editor. So these are the things that we normally start off with our main workflow, and then after that, basically, like, it's a mammoth work sometimes, especially when you are working on a series. The amount of footage, the amount of deliverables, it's huge. So I mean, in terms of achieving that, it's very important to understand and be punctual with your timeline. Like every day you are getting a certain footage, and like especially with the technology, everyone wants to see something on the maybe the same day or maybe in next few days. So you'll have to be on your toes. So in terms of on one hand the footage is coming every day, the assistant is sort of syncing, sorting, marking it and stuff like that. Then immediately the lineup is happening, and then it has to also go through a certain pass by the editor, because then the producer might want to see the lineup, or the OTT wants to see the lineup, and at the same time the director is also on the other hand is little skeptical about what to show and how to show it to the producer or the OTT. So everything goes the moment you finish the shoot for that particular day, and then immediately the footage comes. It gears up the entire process, and then just to be on your mark and perform and then deliver everything on time, it's something that is very important. So I mean, in terms of achieving that, you'll have to definitely communicate, you'll have to understand what the producer wants, what the director wants, and what the editor wants, and how the workflow will be set and all. And yeah, that sincerity and that, yeah. And at the same time, in terms of associate, obviously a lot of responsibility falls on the associate also, because since it's and what you rightly said, that it's more of a collaborative work in editing department also. Like, we are now becoming a big team, especially when we are working on a series or a big film which has a lot of coverage, a lot of footages. So definitely, in terms of dividing the workflow accordingly, and let's say the softwares are giving me a lot of freedom to do something with the sound, that Manas rightly said. Everyone is expecting a lot from the editors, and it's just not an offline platform right now. Producers, directors, everyone wants to see something pretty much final, and in terms of colors, in terms of graphics, in terms of sound, in terms of music, everything is pretty much, they want to see what they are going to see at the final stage. So that responsibility pretty much falls on us. So in terms of becoming an editor, you'll also have to have that kind of understanding of all this other aspects of filmmaking, like not only just assembling and doing a right flow of the narrative in terms of scene and all, but also at the same time, towards the final stage, they also want to see something more fine-tuned in terms of color, in terms of music, in terms of sound balancing and everything. So to become an assistant, an associate, definitely you'll have to understand the gravity of all these stages and be prepared and train yourself, try to learn more and more, all this technology, the way it's evolving every day. The new tools are sort of allowing us to do so many things. So you'll have to sort of be at it.
I ओके, टाइम आउट का मैसेज आ गया है. So I'll make this quick. Basically, I think the definition of assistant associate, though, we are well aware of. The idea is that in my situation, I don't expect a lot from them. I expect more from what I can extract from them. Uh, for the assistant, first of all, and most of the times the way I function is that we work from the ground up. So, you know, an associate is somebody who's already sort of accustomed to my idiosyncrasies, and I work in a very customized manner of how I would like to run my setup. But, you know, from the assistant, the first and biggest requirement is the ability to listen. The more they listen, the more they absorb, and the more they apply. No fear of making mistakes. We are bound to make mistakes. I feel that if they were skilled enough or experienced enough, they wouldn't be assistants. They would have been editors themselves, legit editors themselves. I think they are editors in their own mind, but वो थिंकिंग और एप्लीकेशन का जो गैप है वही असिस्टेंट एसोसिएट और सीनियर एडिटर की जर्नी होती है. तो द एबिलिटी टू लिसन एंड अब्जॉर्ब, एंड कोई स्टेक्स नहीं है असिस्टेंट के ऊपर. जिम्मेदारी बहुत सारी है, टेक्निकल जिम्मेदारी, पर कोई स्टेक्स नहीं है. तो आप निश्चिंत होके फंक्शन करें, जिम्मेदारी से फंक्शन करें. बस सबसे एक ही एक्सपेक्टेशन ये भी होती है कि डोंट कंसिडर दिस अ जॉब. दिस इज़ नॉट अ जॉब. This is something that sparks joy for you. That is why you are here. If it doesn't, feel free to leave. The associate, my expectation is that please care for the project in a way that it is your own. I understand that it is my name that will go as the editor of the project, but the more you care for what you are working on or you are creating, the more personal it becomes, the more efficient you become, the more productive you are at what you are working with. And one thing to both of them is attention to detail is something that I can never disallow. So if even something like, you know, if there is a PIP, what we call, like phone का shot है, phone में बाबा calling लिखा हुआ आना है, तो वो बाबा calling लिखा हुआ वो text वहाँ होना चाहिए. And that's very basic. It's attention to detail. How can the narrative move ahead without that text being there and that ringtone sound being there? So it's just these small things which build and edit an experience of a film. So I think fundamentals, if we can follow, it will be great.
Okay, I think that you guys have given a long list of मतलब बेचारे assistant तो डर गए होंगे यहाँ पे जो भी है. So and really I have very little to add because it's all been covered. But I would just say just one small thing, which is that like all of us started as assistants. I don't know. I definitely did, and the amount that I had done a full-fledged, full-time course at FTI. I thought I knew a lot. Okay, I was pretty good in my little turf on campus, right? But the kind of stuff you learn on the job, okay, you build on what you already know. So of course you come in knowing a lot, but then you build on it. So I would just say that for me, somebody who comes in thinking they already know everything and don't need to learn, those people are usually find themselves in trouble. You know, so as long as you come in wanting to grow and wanting to and understanding that okay, I know a lot, but I don't know it all, and you go from there, and you're willing to listen, as Manas said, very very important, and yeah, willing to work sincerely. I think that's what all of us want, right? So.
Okay, so that was very illuminating about assistants and associates. I think some very important points came up about being precise, being cooperative, being knowledgeable about the project. I take that point that about listening very important because I find I deal a lot with assistants and associates. Although I don't edit myself, I deal with somebody else's assistants and somebody else's associates. And listening has become an important thing which is being missed out. Listening is, for most people who don't know what listening means communicating with your mouth shut. Okay, and if you can't do that, then you're not communicating because that's important. The other thing I find in many assistants is, and it's actually far more common than you know, is that they say all my life. Okay, I had a work on a film with the assistant was 23 years old, and he said all my life, and I said at 23 you don't get to say all my life. Okay, you don't get to say anything like that. You can say all of this year maybe, but all my life no. So and he said that with relation to why he had not upgraded to the newer interface of Avid, because all his life he had used the old interface. I think he was 23 years old. So that interface of Avid was actually not modified since the time his parents were not married. Okay, or probably were in college. So that's how old Avid interface was then. Anyway, so assistants have to. But one thing I have to say for all those who feel an assistant editor is that, like in cinematography and like in lighting, there are some people who are assistants all their lives, and assistant doesn't have to be a stepping stone to becoming an editor. You can be an excellent assistant and you can command an extremely large amount of money. Like cinematographers, there are second ACs today who have very large luxury cars and RVs in Hollywood, that is large living vans, because they are so good that the top cinematographers hire them and take their dates 3 years in advance. Okay, it's possible to be an assistant editor who is that sought after also, and that kind of assistant not has to be a very junior person. It can be a very senior person. Like if I was asked what would you be today, I would say I would be an assistant editor, because I'm so good at it. I'm probably India's best, but I don't want to be. So you got to be there that I can quickly set up a project. I probably won't do that, but I'm just kidding. Yeah.
We can't afford you, sir.
So
We can't afford you.
there you go. So I think if there are no questions, then we are kind of done. We had one more question about AI, but we'll leave it to your imagination.
I'd just like to add one point to this listening bit is that the reason to listen is not because you became an amazing employee and your boss will be happy. It's because you need to learn to listen to your directors. कई बार ऐसा होता है एडिटर्स के साथ कि मेरे हिसाब से ये होना चाहिए फिल्म में, आपके हिसाब से होना चाहिए, अच्छी बात है, पहले वो बंदी या बंदा क्या बनाना चाह रहा है पहले वो तो सुन लो. वो ज़रूरी नहीं है वो फुटेज में रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा हो, पर वो आपके ज़रिए ही आएगा एडिट पे. तो वो सुनना ज़रूरी है, समझना ज़रूरी है कि क्या बनाने की कोशिश हो रही है बिना उसको जज किए. उसके बाद जब सुन लिया कर लिया उसके बाद अपना ओपिनियन दीजिए कि आई डोंट बिलीव इन दिस, देन यू कैन हैव अ डिबेट. बट वो फ्रॉम ग्राउंड अप आपको वो ट्रेड जो है कल्टिवेट करना पड़ेगा.
Any other questions? I would request all of you all to take it offline with the editors. We'll be having them around for some time. So, because we have another cinematographers panel which has to be starting now in some time. So, I would request Shanawaz to do the concluding remarks.
We'd like to thank all the panelists for being here. Also to you, the audience, for being here. I'll just request Manoj Madhavan, who is editor for the Broadcast and Film magazine, which is the official publication of the Broadcast India show. We'll just be handing over a token of appreciation to all the panelists for being here. And just a little bit about what we are giving. Instead of the usual, maybe just a gift or something which is probably going to like land up on a shelf and have no value maybe, we're giving something which is called a tree certificate, which is basically in line with our goals of sustainability as an organization. So on behalf of each of the speakers who are here, there's an organization we work with called Grow Trees. So a tree will be planted on each of their behalf, and that can actually be tracked by all of you because there is a digital ID on the certificate. And the certificate itself is actually made from recycled paper also. There is no frame, you can frame it if you want. So yeah, that's what it is. And yeah, so we have multiple projects. This one particularly is going to be planted in the Sundarbans. Yeah. So I'll let Manoj do the honors. You just have to maybe go down the stage. Yeah.